Hello and welcome to Edyou Pulse, your weekly roundup of events, developments, and conversations in the education sector. I'm Carlene Samuel, and on this week's program, we take a look at 14,000 gold scholarships awarded in 2026. The Ministry of Education continues to tackle bullying and violence in schools, and the Children's Mashroom Mani Parade is set for this Saturday. Also, the month of February is Epilepsy Awareness Month, and on today's program, we'll be hearing from the Epilepsy Foundation of Guyana. All that and more coming up on Edyou Pulse. Stay with us. A total of 14,064 citizens have been awarded scholarships through the Guyana Online Academy of Learning goal for 2026, bringing the number of scholarships awarded between 2021 and this year to 54,627. The 2026 awards are distributed for these academic levels: 4,960 vocational certificate, 4,452 get ready for opportunities to work, grow, 1,761 master's degrees, 1,652 bachelor's degrees, 365 diplomas, 186 associate degrees, and 688 progression from grow to bachelor's degree. Now, the Get Ready for Opportunities to Work GROW program is a pre-university foundation program for persons who did not complete secondary school or did not obtain the required Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC examination passes. Once the 6 to 9 month program is completed, scholars are automatically placed into a bachelor's degree program at one of GOL's partners. This year, 7 new partners were added, bringing the total number of partner institutions to 28. They are the New Guyana School and New Horizon Educational Institution in Guyana, the St. James School of Medicine, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Lewis University, International University of Miami, and Miles Education, USA. The GOAL initiative is a core education commitment of the Government of Guyana since 2020. Scholarships are now unlimited, with the condition that each person may hold only one scholarship at a time to ensure fairness. If you wish to pursue studies but missed this cycle, then you can apply when the scholarship portal reopens in May of 2026. Put your documents together early and follow GOAL's official Facebook page and their website www.goal.edu.gy for updates and instructions. On Monday last, the Guyana Digital School visited Cummings Lodge Secondary School to inform students about the resources and opportunities available to them on the platform. The GDS aims to transform learning in Guyana. The platform uses artificial intelligence, AI, to identify learning gaps in students and provides interactive online classes led by trained educators, as well as a wide digital library. It allows for visual, practical, or self-paced learning. The GDS is designed for anyone of any age to learn anytime and anywhere, and is accessible to several CARICOM countries, including Belize, the Bahamas, and Barbados. Since its introduction last year, more than 20,000 students from grades 10 and 11 have already registered. The National Grade 11 exam, that's the second mock exam for CSEC, is slated for tomorrow, Monday, February 9, 2026. Sir Leon Beaton of Beaton the Mats has shared some pointers to keep in mind for tomorrow's exam as well as the official sitting.
Hello everybody, Sir Leon here, and this is a follow-up video from the initial video that I did with the minister. And this video will specifically speak to the mock exam that is coming up on the February 9th. So this exam, just like the CSEC exam, will have 2 papers, the paper 1 and the paper 2. The paper 1 will have 60 multiple choice questions, and the paper 2 will have 10 compulsory questions. So let's talk about the paper 2 for a bit. So in the paper 2, you want to zero in on these topics that I'll be highlighting. So for question 1, you want to ensure that you know how to manipulate fractions, add, subtract, divide, multiply fractions. You should be able to round off numbers correct to a certain amount of decimal places, significant figures, and also write the numbers in standard form. You should be able to answer questions as it relates to ratio. And also you should have some amount of knowledge on algebra. So for number 2, this is where we'll touch on consumer arithmetic, in it you have to find hire purchase, wages, profit and loss, profit percent, loss percent. And then for question 3, this is where we head into algebra. Make sure you know how to factorize algebraic expressions, either by the AC method, difference of 2 square, or by the distributive law method. You should be able to solve inequalities, solve simple linear equations. And you should be able to represent the solutions to inequalities on a number line. And then you also should be able to solve simultaneous equations. And then for number 4, this is where we head into some geometry. So you should know properties of angles. You should know the total number of degrees in a triangle, a straight line, a circle. You should know the properties as it relates to parallel lines, and when a line cuts two parallel lines. And also you should be able to construct a triangle, construct different angles, a 60-degree angle, 30-degree angle, a 90-degree angle. And then number 5 is where we head into some statistics. So you should be able to work with the frequency table, answer questions from the frequency table, complete the frequency table, know to calculate midpoint, the different boundaries, probability, and you should be able to construct a histogram and also answer questions from the histogram. Then number 5, this is where we head into some measurement. Talk about area, volume, capacity, and then you'll have an application question there. Number 7, pattern and sequence. You should be able to identify patterns. You'll be given 2 diagrams. You should be able to draw the third one based on the pattern of the previous. You should be able to look at that table and figure out the pattern. Number 8, this is where we head to some functions. You should be able to calculate simple functions, composite functions, inverse of a function. And also, you touch on a bit of the equation of the straight line. And then number 9 and 10, this is where we deal with trigonometry and geometry. Touch on the trig ratios, angle of elevation, depression. And then we also touch on similar triangles and scale factor. Yeah, and that is basically it for the exam. So you want to zero in on these topics for the next mock exam that is upcoming on the February 9th. And I wish you the best in this exam. If you can pass, I can guarantee you, if you can pass this exam that is coming up, you're putting yourself in a very good position to do excellent in CSEC. So best of luck, and I look forward to seeing those excellent scores.
In response to the uptick in reports of bullying in schools, the ministry is running an intense nationwide campaign and consultation. Honorable Minister of Education Sonia Parag recently hosted an anti-bullying and anti-violence consultation at St. Joseph High School, which brought together students, educators, parents, and stakeholders in a collective effort to address violence in schools. In her remarks, Minister Parag emphasized that as a society, we must find solutions together through dialogue, shared responsibility, and united action.
Bullying happening physically as well as psychologically. You don't have to hit someone to bully them. It can be what you say to them. It can be how you undermine their confidence. It can be how you undermine their self-esteem. That's bullying. And who is to take responsibility for that? Is it the child who's being bullied? Is it every child that bullies another child, we're going to expel them or transfer them or suspend them? How do we make that child a child that is going to be a constructive individual in society? How are we going to do that? Does it start in the schools? These are very important questions. Does it start in the schools? Or does it start with your behavioral pattern from home? What are we supposed to do as parents? What are we supposed to do as teachers? What are we supposed to do as a ministry? Well, I'll tell you what the ministry is doing. The ministry is making this issue into a real issue that needs to be dealt with. It means that you're not hiding it anywhere. You're not pushing it under the rug. You're saying we have a problem existing and we need to find answers. And it doesn't mean that I will have to expel a child or some child has to be jailed in all cases. We have to find ways as a society to do better than that. We have to find ways to do better than that.
As part of this national campaign, the Ministry of Education also launched the Anti-Bullying Reporting System. The secure digital reporting tool enables students, parents, and teachers to report incidents of bullying or harassment. The system facilitates swift communication between schools and the ministry while ensuring the privacy and protection of all individuals involved. Visit education.gov.gy/ABRS to make your report. Now, in addition to the parents, teachers, and ministries and other stakeholders involved, our students are also doing their part to stand up and speak out against bullying. Emma Monroe, a grade 10 art student of St. Joseph High School, lent her voice to the call for compassion and safer schools through poetry.
The poem is entitled Stand Up Together. Words can be soft, but they can still sting. They linger in hearts, they cling to everything. A laugh in the hallway, a joke meant to shame. To one, it's nothing, to another, deep pain. Bullying hides in whispers and screams, in looks that exclude, in silence between. But silence is heavy, it carries the wrong. When we stay quiet, the hurt grows strong. So stand up, speak out, let kindness be loud. Be brave enough to stand from the crowd. One voice can heal, two voices unite. Together we turn dark moments to light. Choose respect, choose care, choose to see. Because every child deserves dignity. Let schools be safe, let hearts be known. When we stand together, because bullying is wrong. Thank you.
The Children's Mashramani competition concludes this week with the masquerade competition and costume parade on Saturday, February 14, 2026 in Georgetown. This year's theme is Little Builders of One Guyana, Learning Together, Shaping a Digital Tomorrow. According to head of the Unit of Allied Arts, Nicholas Fraser, this year the masqueraders will join the revelers on the road and there will be a few new judging points along the route.
Children's Masquerade and Costume Float Parade will happen on the 14th of February, Saturday the 14th of February. We will begin at 9:30 and we'll move off from Promenade Gardens. We'll move on Middle Street east to Camp Street. We will go north on Camp Street to Lamaha Street, east again on Lamaha Street to Albert Street, north on Albert Street to the National Park, and we will be going in the second entrance to the tarmac. And throughout that route, we will have the kids do their displays. This year, we will have the masquerade and the costumes judged at 2 points. Last year and years prior, we would only have the one judging point at the tarmac in the National Park. This year, we will have 2 judging points. One will be at Lamahan Camp Streets, and the other at the tarmac. Also, just to note that last year we had a bit of a change to the route for the Children's Road Parade. This year we'll be going back to the traditional route. We will be getting entries on the 5th of February, as this week and next week there are competitions that are still going on in the regions. Once we get the entries, we'll be able to say how many students will be taking to the streets, how many learners will be taking part in the Children's Road Parade this year. We usually get less than 2,000 participants in the various competitions. Since we'll be having the masquerade added to the program, there should be more in numbers this year. But we expect all of the regions to take part in the different competitions. So the competitions that we will have, obviously masquerade. So masquerade, there are two competitions. There is the individual flouncing, and we also have the masquerade band competition. We have a nursery section. So there are nursery costumes that will be coming down the road. Primary section, secondary section, and the regional. So there are 6 sections to the road parade. And usually the largest and most extravagant are coming from the region education departments. And so they will bring in the road parade at the national park. We expect the program to finish by between 3 and 4 o'clock. So we are encouraging persons to either support along the route or to come into the national park, and they can sit in the stands and enjoy the presentations from the stands.
February is Epilepsy Awareness Month, a time dedicated to increasing understanding, breaking stigma, and supporting persons living with epilepsy. Today on Edyou Pulse, we'll be hearing from Dr. Jarrell Watson, a neurologist with the Georgetown Public Hospital and a volunteer with the Epilepsy Foundation of Guyana. He'll be helping us to understand what epilepsy is, how it affects learning, and how schools and communities can better support those living with the condition. Dr. Watson, welcome to Edyou Pulse.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Now tell us, what is epilepsy? I feel like as Guyanese, we already have a bit of an understanding or an idea of what it is. But just for education purpose, what is epilepsy, the condition?
So epilepsy, as it is, it's not an evil spirit. It's not something that's contagious, but it's merely basically when you have a recurrent seizure activities in the brain that result in epilepsy. When those seizure activities become chronic over time, then we call that disorder epilepsy. Now, as it relates to what we commonly know in Guyana as fits, it's not the same thing. So seizures and fits are basically somewhat similar, but epilepsy in general is just the name of the disorder or the illness.
Okay, so what does epilepsy look like? Does it have a particular look? Are there different types of seizures?
So epilepsy in general, it doesn't have a face, it doesn't have a race, it doesn't discriminate. But yes, there are different types of seizures. And those seizures would basically come as a result of an abnormal electrical activity in the brain, depending on where that stimulus or where that activity is stimulating, is occurring in the brain. Now, depending on whichever lobe in the brain is affected, then that person would manifest, for example, shaking of the arms, the legs. They may have tongue biting, eye rolling. They may urinate themselves, defecate themselves. They can have visual symptoms. They can start seeing things that are not there. They can also start feeling weird sensations across their bodies. They can hear buzzing sounds like a butterfly flapping or a bird. So it all depends on the area of the brain that's affected. Those symptoms will come as a result of that.
Okay, so what can trigger an epileptic seizure?
So there are many things that can trigger seizures. For example, bright flashing lights. There are some seizures that are very sensitive to that sort of phenomenon. For example, children that hyperventilate when they're running, they're playing, it can also trigger a seizure. Persons that don't eat on time, if you in prolonged fasting periods, it can also trigger seizures. Persons that drink, persons that smoke, persons that vape, because we realize that that is a common condition in our population now. Persons that may or may not have suffered injury to the head can also trigger a seizure. Low blood sugar can trigger a seizure. High blood pressure can trigger a seizure. Poor hydration can trigger a seizure. Being in the sunlight for prolonged hours can trigger a seizure. So there are many things that, and one that I forgot to mention is the lack of sleep. All right. being on cell phones, tablets, computers, that can also trigger seizures for some persons.
All right, now you're already touching on it a little bit, but is anybody perhaps predisposed to seizures?
Yes, so generally persons are not born with epilepsy. This is an acquired condition. So depending on if that person, family members that would have been diagnosed with epilepsy at an early age, it increases their chances as well of developing epilepsy during their lifetime, among other conditions that can contribute to a child, also an adult, developing epilepsy during their lifetime as well.
Okay, so what are some of these signs that we can look out for?
So usually persons would get stiff, they would start to shake, all right? There are other persons that might, what we say, daze off, where they, would just stare in blank, but that just occur for a few seconds, no more than 15 seconds. That's also a type of seizure that can occur. Person can fall on the floor, losing tone in their bodies. That can also be a seizure activity too. It can be just a shaking in one arm or shaking in one leg, or twitching of the face or the mouth can also be subtle signs that, somebody is about to have a seizure activity. There are some telltale signs that you can look for. Some persons will say they start feeling stuff crawling on their bodies. They will start seeing stuff. They will start with a headache, for example. These are all initial symptoms that a seizure is about to happen.
Okay. Now, for the benefit of teachers and caregivers, people who deal with children, because here at Edyou Pulse, here at the Distance Education Unit, we focus on children. What are some safety tips for teachers?
So for teachers, we use what we call the 3 C's: calm, call for help, and you basically ensure that the place that you're in, you take all the necessary cautions. So when somebody's having a seizure, first things first is that you ensure the environment is safe where that person is. If they're on the floor, you slip something under the head, like a towel or maybe something soft to protect that person from injuring themselves. You try not to restrain the person. You just gently turn them on their side. And this is definitely something that we must allude to. You never put anything in the person's mouth. No spoon, no towel, no rag. You just basically leave the person there until the seizure would have aborted. And finally, you ensure that you time the entire event. If it's possible, you can video it to give, healthcare professionals a little bit more understanding for what has occurred during that period.
Now, you mentioned not putting anything in the person's mouth, and that's something that many of us have grown up hearing. Why is it important that we not do that?
So by putting, for example, a spoon in the person's mouth when they're getting a seizure, you can also injure that person, because when the muscles are contracted in the body, that person will bite down really hard on the spoon. They can break a tooth, a teeth or something. It can probably, they can probably aspirate. It can go down their throat. They can choke and they can die. So we advocate, do not, I repeat, do not put anything in the person's mouth.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind. Now, on the point of events, here in Guyana, we have lots of events. We have Mashramani coming up, and there's so many different activities that might entail lights and music and so on. So what are some pointers for maybe parents or somebody who perhaps has epilepsy? What can they do to ensure that, they're safe as they maneuver events like these?
So it is important that those persons who are epileptic, I presume that they will be on medications, is that they take their medications as prescribed by their doctor. Once they will be participating in those activities during this season, is that they ensure that they have enough sleep the night before, they hydrate themselves well, eat on time, try to stay away from bright flashing lights, loud noises. I know that will be a bit of a difficult task, but for those persons that are sensitive to those things, they should try for the most part, to keep away from that. If I might add, persons with epilepsy, they can live a normal, productive life.
All right, so let's talk about the treatment options and perhaps medication that is available to persons living with epilepsy.
Okay, so as it relates to treatment options, there are many. Most of the time, we try to target the triggers, those things that would eventually trigger seizures. So we target those first. And then we move on to medications, whether it be tablets or injections. Now, most of the time, we prescribe medication in tablet form for those persons that are, stable, they're out of the hospital. If they're in the hospital, then they would require a little bit more than that. Now, medications are available. There are many classes of drug that we use for patients with epilepsy, namely things like dilantin, phenobarbital, sodium valproate, and the common one now is Keppra. There are many others like Valium. We have lamotrigine. There is topiramate. So there are many, many classes of drugs, depending again on how those drugs would act and also depending on the type of seizures. Point to note that there are some patients that also have allergies to certain medications. So it is important that if a child or an adult have, the necessary allergies, they should provide that information to the healthcare provider, so as to prevent any allergic reaction and unwanted emergency visits.
Great. Now, you're a volunteer with the Epilepsy Foundation of Guyana. What does the EFG do to support persons living with the condition?
So the Epilepsy Foundation of Guyana, for those who don't know, it is located on Brick Dam, the corner after Star Computers, heading down to Coffee Square. For a more precise location, Brick Dam and Brummel Place. It's a colonial-style building, and the foundation is located there. Now, as it relates to the help that the foundation offers, it gives medication when persons have a shortage of medications, when they're not able to afford those medications. Also, the foundation provides an electroencephalogram service, or what we call an EEG service, to the population as well, so as to better help those individuals, or to better diagnose those individuals with epilepsy. It also offers support in forms of giving information, and they also have a support group system that also helps persons living with epilepsy across Guyana.
Great. Now, the EFG actually has an event coming up on the 14th of February. It's a walk, an awareness walk. Can you tell us more about that?
So it's an annual awareness walk. So this year it's going to be held in the starting point is going to be at the National Park at 6:30 on Saturday, February 14th. And it's basically walking and spreading awareness, promoting epilepsy, basically giving information as it relates to persons and supporting those persons living with epilepsy across Guyana.
Great. Now, for persons who might want to participate, how would they sign up or register? What should they wear?
So the color for the epilepsy day or epilepsy activities is the color purple. For the first, I believe it's the first 30 persons that arrive, they are free t-shirts that would be given. But if you arrive a little bit later beyond that or outside of that number, then you are free to walk with your purple t-shirt, purple top, purple bandanas, purple flags, whatever purple you have to support persons living with epilepsy.
Great. Well, Dr. Watson, it's been a pleasure chatting with you and learning some more about the condition epilepsy. For anybody who would like to get into contact with the Epilepsy Foundation of Guyana, how do they do that?
So there is a number provided. I can provide you with that number, 645-7776. That number, you can WhatsApp that number. If you need any support, guidance as it relates to epilepsy, medication, or any information that would be necessary.
Great. Do you have any final words to leave with our viewers today?
So it's just to reiterate that epilepsy, it's not, it's not an evil spirit. It's not contagious. Persons can live a very productive life. And the enemy here is stigma. And we should all work together to eliminate the stigma for persons living with epilepsy.
Great. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Watson, for chatting with us.
And thank you for having me.
Here's a recap of this week's featured stories. 14,000 gold scholarships awarded in 2026. The Ministry of Education continues to address bullying and violence in schools. The Guyana Digital School brings AI-powered learning to more secondary students. Grade 11 mock exams are set for tomorrow. The Children's Mashramani Parade is set for this Saturday, and February is Epilepsy Awareness Month. We encourage you to wear purple in support. All right, that was this week's edition of Edyou Pulse. Join us again next Sunday for the latest in education.